What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Saturday, October 18th. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, I'm going to give you my final thoughts ahead of the United States Grand Prix in Austin at the Circuit of the Americas. Sprint Quali and FP1 were last night, had some interesting results, and I was watching them. It went until about midnight 30, and then I was like, I gotta get some sleep before I do this video. So I've gotten some sleep. I haven't had coffee yet, so hopefully that doesn't change my thinking too much. But this is what I thought of right off the bat after Sprint Quali. Sprint Quali thoughts for F1 Fantasy at the United States Grand Prix. Max is a must-have. Don't be silly. Hold McLaren. Red Bull versus Mercedes is a dart throw. Extra DRS very much in play, but waiting could be the safest and smart play. I'll have to sleep for 6 hours, and I'll record my final thoughts, which I'm doing right now, and then I will see y'all for a 2-hour deadline live stream before the sprint race. So yes, don't forget, I will be here for 2 hours before the deadline to kind of break down all of that. So hopefully you're watching this, and then I will also see you at the deadline. But those are kind of my thoughts right off the bat. I've woken up, I've kind of looked at some of the sims, I looked at some of the data now, kind of reading some stuff, and the squad right now coming out of Singapore was Piastri, Hadjar, Russell, Sainz, Gasly, McLaren, Ferrari. Without a doubt, there is no doubt in my mind that I will be getting rid of the red Italian team this week. They looked bad, B-A-D. Let's look at practice one here. Leclerc had a little bit of a problem during quali sims at the end of FP1, but Lewis Hamilton down here in 8th, Leclerc down here in 20th. He didn't really get any representative running, but Lando, Oscar, 1-3. Nico Hulkenberg up there, which actually came through in spring quali, so Nico has found something around this track. Alonso 4th, Max 5th, Alex Albon 6th, Russell 7th, Hamilton 8th, Hadjar 9th, and Behrman 10th, along with Esteban Ocon. And then we move over to the sprint quali. And the end of SQ1 was wild. Like 4 or 5 cars didn't make it across the line in time to set a lap time. Like Bortoleto didn't even set a lap time. Tsunoda, Ocon, Colapinto, Behrman, I think all got caught out in this kind of like mad dash to the finish line, and none of them were able to set a time. So Yuki Tsunoda does give me pause about going with Red Bull. He is quite far back. I don't love that for him in traffic, and we've seen that it just seems to be one thing after another with Yuki Tsunoda. So that gives me a little bit of pause going to Red Bull as the second constructor. Like I mentioned, Red Bull versus Mercedes for me really is a dart throw right now. If we look at the lovely data that they always give us in F1 over here, we can see sprint quality analysis. McLaren came out on top. Red Bull were behind them. Obviously, Max took pole. But how much, like, the pace was in that car. Obviously, Yuki has yet to unlock it like Max Verstappen can, but in race simulation pace, McLaren, Red Bull, and then Mercedes a little bit further back. So it's something to think about because Kimi Antonelli came in 11th. He got knocked out in SQ1 as the Ferraris limped through to SQ3. So a little bit disappointing for Antonelli. I mentioned this in a post on X as well, where you can follow me at F1 Fantasy Ewan, that I find it hard to believe that Antonelli is going to be able to pass Leclerc, Albon, Hamilton, Sainz, Russell to get like some decent points here. We could be looking at 3, 4, 5 points for Antonelli if he can get past a couple of these cars. It looks like the Mercedes has more pace than the Ferrari, however, and the Williams, obviously, but like these are some of the best drivers on the grid. Leclerc, Albon, Hamilton, Sainz, Alonso all the way up there. They are going to be able to keep, I think they're going to be able to keep Antonelli behind, and that gives me a little bit of pause about Mercedes as well. As we can see, the top 10 for SQ3, Verstappen came through, then Norris, Piastri, Hulkenberg was surprising 4th place. Russell struggled. He went out quite early in SQ3. He just wanted to get done. Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Albon, Leclerc rounds out the top 10. Like I said, Ferrari's just no go for me. I'm out on Ferrari. I've waited so long. I've been waiting for their kind of comeback to come at all, and it's not working out at all. So I'm ditching Ferrari this week for Mercedes or Red Bull. That's going to be a deadline decision. As we look at the budget building here, if you are just tuning in to F1 Fantasy for the first time since Singapore Grand Prix, Russell and Verstappen are on for pretty easy price rises, I would say, in the Tier A bracket. And then all of these other 4 drivers, Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, could all fall. It's not the biggest deal in the world. They only fall by 0.3 in the Tier A status, but it is something to think about if you're playing with fine margins. There are some lineups that I was looking at last night where I'm like 0.7 short, and that's like maybe if I was a little bit more careful in previous races with my budget, like I could be there, but it is what it is. Sainz, Alonso, Lawson, Gasly, Colapinto, Behrman can all rise 0.6 if they score less than 15 points this weekend. Antonelli here, 2 points for good price rise, 16 points for great price rise for those of you with smaller budgets and can get to like a 4A light build. I still like Antonelli this weekend. I think he just got caught out a little bit in SQ2, so unfortunate for him. So we've also had the simulations from Ryder over at F1 Fantasy Tools. He has released those. Go check those out. And Verstappen comes out on top, Norris second, Piastri third, all very close together. Leclerc and Hamilton well below Russell. So even if you like were thinking maybe I'll just take a little bit of a punt on Leclerc at COTA since he won here last year, like don't even think about that. Out on Ferrari at all. For me, I've seen some Williams love. We can go down here a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's right there at the bottom. 28.5 expected points for Williams and 28 points for Kick Sauber. I've seen some lineups already going around with those differentials. Unless you are like just really trying to catch up in a mini league or your overall rank, I'm not going to go down there, especially when we see McLaren 85.3, we got Red Bull 58.5, Mercedes 52.8, and Ferrari at 50. I guess if you only could go for some reason not to Red Bull and Mercedes, but Ferrari down, I would go to Williams, I guess. But as for the rest of the midfield, like Bortoleto 9.3, he's starting at the back of the sprint. Hulkenberg 8.6 expected points. He's got P4 in the sprint. How much he's going to be able to hold on to that. You don't get points for the sprint quali. So if Hulkenberg goes down any negative points or any places in the race, that's negative points starting off for Hulkenberg. And if we look at the budget builder, he needs 26 to even avoid a price drop. So I don't know if I'd be going with Nico Hulkenberg. I know P4 is right there, but it doesn't feel great. Gabriel Bortoleto would be my ideal Kick Sauber driver. All right, so let's get into it here. I've gotten 8 minutes into this video. I haven't even talked about my actual team selection. So Piastri, Russell, McLaren, Ferrari. Those are the kind of assets that I can move around here. So a simple move, I talked about this in my team selection, is Verstappen in for Piastri and Mercedes in for McLaren. And then that leaves me 2 million in the bank. I could not take a hit, which would be fine, I think. Hadjar probably gonna fall according to the budget builder, but Sainz looks okay for a price rise. Gasly has talked about how his floor wasn't really working all that well for Alpine, and this track may hide their weaknesses a little bit better. So that gives me encouragement as well. However, with Gabriel Bortoleto starting at the back of the grid and having 2 million in the bank, I can get Bortoleto into my squad and get rid of Alpine assets, which is mighty tempting for me. So Verstappen, Russell, McLaren, Mercedes, Hadjar, Sainz, and Bortoleto. I wouldn't 3x this lineup. I can say that right off the bat. I would probably just put the 2x on Verstappen, take my points, go home, and live to fight another day with the 3x chip. I don't love taking a hit, but I do love it to get out of the Alpine assets that I don't want to be a part of anymore. Like I only had them for one race and it was already quite nerve-wracking. Bortoleto starting from the back, and you see that like Sauber has some pretty good race pace, so he should be able to get ahead of the Haas's and the Alpines. He's quite an aggressive driver, quite like a he like a punchy driver. He likes to kind of get the overtakes done. So I can see Bortoleto being quite aggressive and not just like trundling around at the back of the pack. And even if he does 0 points, you're like, that's not the end of be all. And we can see that the Kick Sauber does have some potential in it with Hulkenberg getting into P4 in the sprint quali. So I would expect Bortoleto to take advantage of that and kind of rectify his mistakes from SQ1 in qualifying later today. Another lineup I'm looking at, let me just refresh the page here, is going straight from Russell to Verstappen, bringing in Mercedes, and then I have 5.5 million left in the bank, and that means I have to go to Franco Colapinto. And that means double Alpine, which I don't love all that much because I'm kind of expecting like Gasly in 13th for the for the sprint is fine, but I feel like Stroll, Lawson, and Behrman may pass him, and then we're looking at negative points again for Alpine. Colapinto, I don't know. I mean, Tsunoda will pass him, but you never really know with Ocon. Bortoleto as well. Like, it feels like I'm starting off on negative points here if I go double Alpine. I really like this line. Like, if this was Qatar, I would probably say screw it and play the 3X on this because Verstappen and Piastri is probably the best combo. I know Lando is kind of looking quite spicy in qualifying, but just consistency and like overall, I'm really interested to see like are the gloves off in F1 this weekend with the McLaren drivers, with Piastri kind of just being like, okay, and all these lasting repercussions that Lando's supposed to go through. So we'll see how all that goes down. But I'm not a huge fan of this lineup. I've also looked at kind of configurations with Red Bull. I think that also kind of puts me into the double. It's not all the way into the double Alpine, but it makes me go with Bortoleto here, which is not bad. It's just, I guess if McLaren looks like on it this weekend, I don't know who's going to be better between Lando and Oscar. So maybe Verstappen and Russell with McLaren and Red Bull is the way to go, and then bring in Bortoleto. Bringing in Bortoleto instead of a double Alpine asset or even like Hadjar, especially because he's starting at the back of the pack in this sprint, should kind of negate the negative 10 that I'd have to do to kind of go here. I like Red Bull long term. Like we've got Max coming up in Mexico as well, which should be good. We got Brazil. So even having a little taste of Red Bull, despite Yuki Tsunoda not being so hot in SQ1 yesterday, if we can go take a look at these constructors here. So like Red Bull versus Mercedes, 85 in Azerbaijan, 56 in Monza. So they have done a pretty good job versus Mercedes over the last like 7 races. I mean, we know that Mercedes had this like kind of front wing adjustment in Singapore that seems to have helped them quite a bit. But like if Max is going to win the sprint and if Max wins the Grand Prix, it feels like Red Bull is the way to go. Like I said, there's probably going to be a dart throw that comes down to the deadline. So don't forget to come along and watch the 2-hour deadline live stream before the sprint race today. I can't tell. This is a tempting lineup for Verstappen, Russell, Bortoleto, McLaren, Red Bull. However, this lineup that I was talking about as well, the previous lineup with bringing in Hadjar, who has potential. I just love him as a driver. And then just getting out of the Alpine business altogether is quite nice also. Like I could even bring in Liam Lawson. I'm more likely to bring in Gabriel Bortoleto. So let me know in the comments below what you guys are thinking between these two lineups. The Verstappen, Hadjar, Bortoleto lineup or the Verstappen, Red Bull or Verstappen, Mercedes, Bortoleto lineup or Verstappen, Red Bull, Bortoleto lineup with Pierre Gasly as well. So I think those are going to be the 2 lineups I'm kind of choosing between in F1 Fantasy as we head down to the sprint race deadline. But let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about. Hit me up on X at F1 Fantasy. You can follow me on TikTok as well at F1 Fantasy Ewan, posting quite a lot more on there these days. So hopefully that is enjoyable. And I think it's all on YouTube Shorts as well. But yes, we've got 11 hours. Let's check the timer up here real quick. 11 hours and 46 minutes to go until the deadline. So I will be back in like 9-ish hours, like under 9 hours. I will be back for some more F1 Fantasy content. But don't forget to like the video. We're trying to get to 150 likes on every video, even though there's only like 10 hours for this to be around. But that would be tremendous. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever you are watching and listening. It's now a video podcast on Spotify. So that's kind of exciting as well. But once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I will see you in about 9 hours and I will talk to you next time.